Prokaryotic diversity, Chapter 17. Prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are microscopic, typically unicellular organisms with cells that lack internal membrane-bound organelles. Prokaryote characteristics. DNA floats freely in the cytoplasm instead of nucleus. Prokaryotes consist of a singular circular chromosome. Some prokaryotes contain additional small circular DNA molecules called plasmids that may give them an advantage in certain environments. Prokaryotes are about 1/10 of the thickness of a human hair. Majority are unicellular, but others form multicellular colonies that can function as a single unit. Prokaryotes occupy every niche on the planet. We barely have scratched the surface of cataloging their numbers and diversity. Biologists generally rely on DNA to identify prokaryotic organisms because of similar physical characteristics. A brief prokaryote history. Prokaryotes were the first colonizers of our planet, and for 2 billion years, it was the only life form. They evolved nearly 4 billion years ago, which gave them more time to adapt to a wide range of environments, even the ones that would kill most eukaryotes. For many years, all prokaryotes were under one large group, the kingdom Monera, a classification based largely on their cell structure. In the late 1970s, at the University of Illinois, Carl Woese and his colleagues discovered that not all prokaryotes are genetically similar enough to be classified as a single group. This led to the establishment of a new branch of prokaryotic organisms, the archaea. They represented a distinct evolutionary domain of life. True or false? All prokaryotes are unicellular, with floating DNA. It's false. Most prokaryotes are unicellular, but those that are multicellular form colonies that can function as a single unit efficiently. Bacteria, one of the two domains of prokaryotic life. General characteristics of bacteria. Most possess a cell wall. Genetic diversity translates into a wide variety of difference in nutrition, metabolism, shape, and lifestyle. Bacteria live just about everywhere on the planet. Some are autotrophs, which means they are able to make their own food directly using the material from non-living environment, while others are heterotrophic bacteria, which means they obtain food by consuming material from living or dead organisms. They play a role in decomposition, allowing carbon and other elements, which otherwise would be trapped in the dead organism, to be recycled. They break down their food molecules, also known as organic molecules, through a variety of metabolic pathways. Some require oxygen and some do not. Instead, they employ the anaerobic process of fermentation to get energy from their food. Bacteria physical characteristics. Physically, they adapt to the environment. They can be found in shapes of rods, spheres, or spirals. Flagella are tiny whip-like structures that project from the cell and help it move. Some bacteria have pili, which are shorter, hair-like appendages that enable bacteria to adhere to a surface, while other bacteria are surrounded by a capsule, which is a sticky outer layer that helps the cell adhere to surfaces and avoid the defenses of the host. Bacteria to organism relationships. Bacteria have diverse living arrangements with other creatures. Many live in close association or symbiosis with other organisms, often to the benefit of one or both partners. Organisms that cause disease are called pathogens. They also include bacteria who are not beneficial to their host. Many pathogenic bacteria cause disease by producing toxins that harm their host. Others cause disease by living and reproducing in the body and interfering with its normal processes. Bacteria's anaerobic process of breaking down their food most closely resembles to what human bodily process. It is fermentation, the human body's method of anaerobic ATP production. Archaea, one of the two domains of prokaryotic life. Archaea are genetically different from bacteria, other than being a single-celled organism that lack a nucleus. Instead of peptidoglycan, archaea have cell walls made of other molecules. Archaeal cell membranes can also have a different chemical composition that makes them less likely to be pulled apart. Archaeal DNA is protected by enzymes that resist heat. They also have unique forms of metabolism. The most well-known species are the so-called extremophils. Many of these extreme-loving archaea are hyperthermophils. Many of these hyperthermophilic archaea are anaerobic and rely on sulfur instead of oxygen in metabolism. Other archaea are methanogens, which consume carbon dioxide and hydrogen and produce methane as a byproduct. And because of their intake of gases, they are considered autotrophs. Some archaea are halophils, or salt lovers, and prefer a home saturated in salt, which would shrivel most other living things. They are detectable by the colorful pigments they produce, bright reds, yellows, and purples. Archaeans are the origin of life? Well, archaeas have a natural liking to extreme environments, and the archaeal metabolism is amongst the most ancient forms of metabolism on Earth. Scientists believe that the first organisms were likely autotrophs, whom obtained their carbon from carbon dioxide, used hydrogen as an energy source, and produced methane as a byproduct. This is everything archaeans do now. Archaea are the only organisms known to perform this type of metabolism. They also perform it without oxygen, meaning it's even more likely for archaea to be the origin of life because the Earth was an environment that lacked oxygen at the time, billions of years ago. How are archaeans able to withstand such extreme conditions as their preferred environment? These prokaryotes have DNA that is protected by enzymes that resist heat and have had billions of years to adapt, especially living in ancient Earth.